And good afternoon. This is the Daf Yomi for Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Vayishlach, Kuf Ayin Beis, 172. The Daf Yomi is dedicated for a Shmir for the Chayalim, Hatzalah for the Shvuyim, and Yeshua for Am Yisrael, and the Seis Tzara. The Gemara tells us on 172a that we're going to start on, hold on one second. The Gemara tells us on 172a, we're going to start 4 lines from the top. The Gemara says, Amu Rava Barav Shilo Lahanu Kasve Shtira. So Rabba Baravuna said to those people who are writing documents akniyasa, those people who are writing documents on kinyanim, on transfers, meaning to say that if you're they're basically we're saying that we saw that this transfer of property took place. Ki kasvinu shtari akniyasa, when you write this document for this transfer, idiyaso yoma de knisube, and you're basically giving a proof that this transfer took place, let's say, a month ago. If you know the exact date that it took place, kosvu, then you should write it. Write the exact date. Below kosvu yoma the kiyam tube. But if you don't know the exact time, the exact date that the transfer took place, then write the day on which you are mekayim it. Basically, write the day which you're standing there, but not the date on which you saw it take place. Why? Because we don't want you just to make up a date, an earlier date, and then it looks like the document is false. So rather than writing a wrong date, make sure you don't write the wrong date. So just give the date that you know down. Don't do an estimated date. And if you do an estimated date and you're wrong, that's going to create the appearance of falsehood. Amar lahu, Rav was Safrei. Rav said to his scribes, and also Rav Huna said to his scribes, Ki kaimaisu b'shile, that he says when you're writing a document and you're in the town of Shile, because kisvu b'shile, you should write that it's being written in Shile. Ma'afagav the avagav the mesir l'chumili behine, even though when the matter that you're writing about was told to you in hine, even though that's the case, ki kamaisu behine, but when you're writing the document in hine, kisvu behine, afagav the mesir l'chubeshile. Even though the matter was presented to you in Chile, you should write the town basically that you're living in. Meaning to say, in addition to writing, the way Rashbam explained this, in addition to writing the document, the name of the town in which the loan or the sale took place, you should also write the name of the town in which the document is being written. Meaning to say here, like for example, Rashbam says, here in Chile, we are writing what we witnessed in Hine. Because if you write just one of the towns, then it's also Milse Kishikra, it looks appearance of falsehood. Because maybe people will say, well, it didn't take place in that town, and they'll say the document was not written in the town and could create appearance of falsehood. So therefore you have to write both names. So now the Gemara says, back we said earlier that according to Rav Yehuda, if somebody paid a portion of the debt, you have to write a new document. So Rav Yossi says, no, you write a receipt. So now the Gemara says, what's the halacha in a case where the lender is the one who's requesting that the document be exchanged? So Rava says, Haiman the Nakachdara Barmea Zuze, a person, the Ruvain is the lender, and Rava says he holds a document, and the document says that Shimon owes him 100 zuz. V'amar Shavyin Nihili Trey B'nei Chamishin. And he says to the court, turn this document for me into, instead of one document that says he owes me 100, make it 2 documents or 50, that each one says 50. Meaning to say, the reason why he wants these 2 documents of 50, so that's because in case the borrower wants to pay back half of the loan, that way he'll easily tear up one of the 2 documents. This will make it easier. So that's why he's asking for this. And so he wants to have smaller documents to help him. So the Gemara says, under those circumstances, we don't make them for this without the borrower approving. He can't demand it because sometimes the borrower wants to have the entire amount recorded in one document, as we'll see. My time. The rabbis made a measure that was good for both the lender and the borrower, that you can't substitute documents without the consent. It's good for the lender, so that the borrower he'll realize that if he makes a partial payment, then he's going to be stuck because he has to keep on to the receipt. And so therefore the lender will pressure him to pay more. And so therefore the lender has this advantage by not forcing him to do a smaller document. And it's also good for the borrower, so he could basically damage the document. How so? When a lender attempts to basically collect the debt with a document that he admits was partially paid, he can't collect it unless he takes an oath. He has to take a shvuah that he still owed the rest of the money. That's the Gemara in Shvuas. So sometimes it's the borrower's advantage that the original document remain in place, so that if he makes a partial payment and then the lender wants to get him to pay the rest, the lender will have to take an oath. And so therefore, for this reason, we don't allow them to unilaterally switch the document. Let's say there's a person who holds, hold on one second. Says Rava, Haiman Denaka Trey Stare B'nei Chamishin Chamishin. If there's a person who has two documents and each one is worth 50 zuz, each one says Shimon was ruling 50 zuz, but Amar Shavinu Nile Chad Bar Me'ah, will turn into a document of 100. Again, we're not going to do it without the consent of both the borrower and the lender. Because the rabbi said we're going to say that it's not allowed because we want to do something that's good for both the borrower and the lender. How so? So it's good for the lender. Why? Because we don't want his document to be damaged. Because now if he repays 50, and then he wants to reclaim it, he has to take an oath, just like we saw before. And it's also good for the borrower to have two separate documents. This way, the lender will have less of an ability. He will feel less pressure to pay him back. And now another case, Amarava Haiman Denakit Shtare Bar Me'ah Zuzeh. So he says a person who has a document that says that Reuben says that Shimon owes me 100 zuz. The Amar, and he says to the court, Shaviani le'echad bar chamishin, make it to me, just make it into one document of 50. Meaning to say, okay, listen, I have a document that says he owes me 100, but I'll tell you what, cut it in half. Lo mashvin, we still don't listen to him. My time, I'm Rinan, because we're going to say maybe the following thing happened. He said, maybe the following thing happened. Hi mifra pare, maybe the lender, maybe the borrower already paid everything completely. And he said, give me the document. And the lender says, I lost it because of Vaitabra, and instead he wrote a receipt for the borrower for 100 zuz. And now this guy's going to produce a document of 50 zuz, and it's a totally different document. And so therefore, under these circumstances, we're not going to just unilaterally replace the document. So the Gemara says, Shnei Achin. So now, in the previous Mishnah, we ruled that Rabbi Yossi said you can force the borrower to accept a receipt. So the Gemara says now, the Mishnah says another case in which we force somebody into a bad position. Shnei Achin, Echad Ani, Echad Ashir. There are two brothers. One of them is poor, one of them is rich. So, and the father left them a bathhouse and an olive press. So, if the father made the bathhouse or the olive press for renting, meaning to say the father was using these places as a business, then either one of the brothers can insist that they continue to do so. This is only talking about a case where the property cannot be divided, but if the property is able to be divided, then Rashbam says then they could take their share. So the Gemara says, and hascharla emtza, and they split the rent. So under those circumstances, they continue renting it and they split it. Asan la'atzma, but if the father was using it for himself, then the wealthy one can say to the poor one, buy slaves for yourself and let them bathe in the bathhouse. Meaning to say, the poor brother without the slaves, what's he going to use it? Because he has just a couple of people in his house. What's he going to use a big bathhouse for? But the rich brother can say, it's not my problem. I have slaves using it, so you should also get some slaves. Buy olives and use them in the olive. Oh, you're saying I don't have any olives. What good is it for me? I want to sell it. Well, sorry, go buy olives. Shnayim shall you be yiracha. So let's say there were two people in the same town. And this is a great Shem Echad Yosef and Shimon, and Shem Echad Yosef and Shimon. Two people in the same town with the exact same name. They can't produce a loan document one against the other because both of them can say that they're the actual lender. So therefore, the Yosef ben Shimon who's being sued can claim that he's actually the lender in the document, and the document was written to record a loan that he made to the other Yosef ben Shimon. And when that Yosef ben Shimon repaid the loan, he returned the document to him. And it's Yosef ben Shimon, the borrower, who's now using the return document to sue the lender. So basically, you have no recourse. Nor can another person make a claim against either one of them, because each of them can claim, I'm not the one, I'm not that Yosef ben Shimon, unless witnesses unless there are Eidim. So if there was discovered among someone's documents stating Shtaro shal Yosef and Shimon Perua, Shtaro Shneim Peruan. But so basically, if you find the document amongst one of them, if a person discovered a document stating that the deed of Yosef and Shimon was paid, then both of them are paid, since we can't prove who's the one whose document was paid off. Keitza Yasu. So what should they do? Yishaleshu. They should add a third generation to the name in the document, meaning say Yosef ben Shimon and go back a previous generation. And if they're even identical to the third generation, Yachtavu Simon, they should record a document. They should record a Simon. Meaning to say they should say Yosef ben Shimon, who is short or tall. And if they have the same exact features, Yachtavu Kohen. Should write Kohen in front of them as a Kohen. So the Gemara says, Ahu Shtara. So the Gemara says there was an incident where there was a document, the Nathako Beidina de Rav Huna, that was coming out of the court of Rav Huna. And this document says that Ani Poni Bar Poni I so and so received Poni Bar Poni Laviti Mani Mimcha. I so and so, the son of so and so, borrowed 100 Jews from you. But the lender was not identified by name. Basically, the document gives the name of the borrower, which is Ploni. I, Ploni, the son of Ploni, and it refers to the lender as Mimcha, from you. So the holder of the document claims that he was the you. And so therefore he's saying that you owe me the money. Top of 172b. Amar Avuna Mimcha Afil Miresh Galusa Afil Mishavur Malka. Basically, Rav Huna says that the word from you could mean Afil Miresh Galusa Afil Mishavur Malka. It means they could be from anyone. there's no proof that it's the person holding it, so you can't collect. Meaning to say, the borrower can claim that's not the one who you lent me the money. The fact that you're in possession of it is because maybe he lost it. So it doesn't mean I have to pay you money. So I'm going to put the Rabba Pukayemba, the orta by La Rafuna Mina. Go and look into this matter because in the evening Rafuna is going to come and he's going to question you. Nafak Dak Vashkach, Rabba went out and investigated and found that Tanya get Yeshu of Adam Veimbo's man. Let's say there is a get that there is a bill of divorce that has witnesses but no date on it. Abashol Omer imkasav bogi rashti ayom. If it says I divorced her today, kosher, it's kosher. But Alma, we see from here ahu hayom ahu that the word hayom means hahu yoma. That the word today means hahu yoma denafak bemasma. That refers to the day on which you find the debt in the court. And so that's the day in which he was divorced. And so we've established that in this brisa. Hachinami, why don't we say you're also from you means the person who has it? So the Gemara says, Amrle Abaye, Vidilma, Abba Shol Rabbi Elazar. Maybe Abba Shol is agreeing with Rabbi Elazar. The Amar Ede Misire Karti. Maybe he says Abba Shol's agreeing with Rabbi Elazar, who says you don't need witnesses to sign it, you just need witnesses to deliver it. And so therefore the get doesn't need a date, and it's the same date that it was delivered. But here we have to be concerned that maybe the document fell out, and that's why he has it. Rabbi says we're not concerned about falling. We're not concerned about it. We're not concerned about that. So the Gemara says, "Umana tamer delo chashina wanafila." How do we know we're not concerned about falling? The Tanan, Shnayim shayu be'ir achas. If there are two people in one city, Shem echad Yosef ben Shimon. One of them is known as Yosef, the son of Shimon. Hold on. One of them is called Yosef ben Shimon. V'shem and v'shem acher Yosef ben Shimon. And Yochon lotzi shtar chovzal said they can't. Neither one can collect the money. And also somebody else can't produce a note against them. But if you're saying that we're not concerned about it flowing out, they should be able to produce a document against other people. The borrower can't claim that you're a different person. Doesn't this prove we're not concerned that it fell out? So the Gemara says, Abaya, and what about Abaye? When a fila the chadlo chashinan, when a fila the rabim chashinan, Abaye would say, yeah, we're not concerned about one person. In the case of one person, but in the case of a majority of people or the public as a large, we are. Meaning to say, in order for the borrower's claim to be true, in the case of the Yosef and Shimon's, we have to assume that the document was lost by one Yosef and Shimon and then found by the other Yosef and Shimon. However, in the case of the document that states I borrowed money from you, the document could have fallen from anybody's hand. And so that's a different scenario. So the Gemara basically has said, El Hadatanya, but what about on top of 173H? Kashem Shem Motzi Shtar Chol V'Zal. Zakachem Motzinam Acherem. Well, what about the fact that which we're taught in the Brisa, just like they can't bring out the note on each other, so too they can't produce it against others because somebody else will say that you're the one who owes me the money. So, but my kamiflagi. So the Gemara says, "But osios niknas b'misir kamiflagi." Tanadan is our old shita which we had earlier, whether or not the contract can be transferred just by handing it over. Tanadidan savar osios niknas b'misira. That the letters can be acquired, the contract can be acquired through Masira. Therefore, the holder of the loan document can collect with it. We assume that he owns the debt in it. Vatana Barasa, where the price says Enos Yos Niknos Masira. So therefore, just because he holds it doesn't mean he can collect with it. Gemara, I mean that's today's daf yomi, but we'll stop here. Shkoyach to the daf yomi for Shabbos. Shkoyach.